football is more than just a sport. Every week, fans in their thousands convene to large fortresses to watch their team play come rain or shine, Champions League on a Wednesday night, or the non-league on a wet Sunday afternoon. It's a sport that anyone can play anywhere, with moments of glory and heartbreaking upsets, but out of the many teams who compete on a professional scale, the one that I support is a team I represent with pride, and in the past 15 years has seen a steady change in fortune from mid-table strugglers to one of Europe's underdog elites. Why, of course, I'm talking about Tottenham Hotspur, and I've witnessed many highs and lows throughout my life following the club, but right now, the tables are turning again with a new manager, players and home ground. But will it be for the better or for the worse? Was our surprise run to the Champions League final last year a statement of intent or a ray of false hope, like when Leeds United got to the semi-finals in 2001 before taking a big nosedive due to poor decisions on and off the pitch? I'm not saying that will happen to Tottenham, but, you know, gotta play devil's advocate. That's what I'm aiming to find out in today's video, and I'll be talking to a few fans to see why the 2019-20 season has not exactly been plain sailing for Spurs, and rather a disappointing time not seen since the 2013-14 season. However, with every situation, there are plenty of reasons as to why it happened in the first place, and I'll divide these factors down into 4 categories, starting with our new stadium. For 117 years, Tottenham Hotspur were based at White Hart Lane, a stadium rich full of memorable games and glory nights in Europe. It was one of the most exciting venues for any football team, and on a good day, the home atmosphere was powerful and intimidating to any opposition who stepped inside the lane. Personally, I was lucky to have gone to the old stadium twice before it got demolished after the 2016-17 season, where the team finished second in the league and went the entire run undefeated at home, completing the last home game at White Hart Lane with a 2-1 win over Manchester United. However, while there was a perfectly adequate ground, change was needed in order to take Spurs into the next level. The 36,000-seater stadium was small in comparison to other teams like Man United's Old Trafford, which went through several refurbishments for a 75,000 ground capacity, and the Emirates Stadium opened in 2006 for Arsenal at 60,000 seats after 93 years at Highbury. The plan for a new Tottenham Stadium, on the other hand, had been in a pipeline for years since 2007, and at one point they had considered moving to the London Stadium after the 2012 Olympic Games, which they lost out to West Ham, and that might have been a blessing in disguise given the negative reception from their own supporters. The first part of the project was constructed during the 16-17 season, as evidenced with one part of the old White Hart Lane demolished already, but after the last emotional game against Man United, the whole place was swept apart, while Spurs spent the 2017-18 season away at Wembley Stadium, having previously played there the season before for European competitions. Now, don't get me wrong, Wembley is a great stadium, but it didn't feel like home, and sometimes the state of the pitch was bloody awful. The new home was subject to a few delays from opening in September 2018, October, January, and at one point Spurs had to play a match in Milton Keynes for a League Cup victory against Watford. But finally, on April 3, 2019, the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium opened with a lavish opening ceremony and, most importantly, a 2-0 win against Crystal Palace, with Heung-min's son scoring the first ever goal at the new ground. Nowadays, over a year later, and I wouldn't say it's the reason for our team's poor form, I've been to see a few live matches there, and honestly, the new stadium is amazing and it blows my mind whenever I go. There is so much thought behind every feature at the 62,000 plus arena. The South Stand alone has 18,000 seats, and when the home crowd work together to cheer on the Lily Whites, the sound can send you chills. The pitch as well can change into an NFL pitch for American football, meaning more money for the team. The cockerel on top is a nod to the old ground. The food and drinks sold is plentiful as opposed to the usual pork pies, although a bit expensive, and even a club shop next door is massive with merchandise, retro and modern tops on sale, and a huge screen used to play match highlights and clips from the club's YouTube channel with the players engaging in extracurricular activities. There are also stadium tours as well, live music taking place with concerts from Guns N' Roses and Lady Gaga, a club museum opening soon, and the naming rights are yet to be sorted as of writing this video. But of course, there have been some complaints. Oh, it doesn't feel like home, or oh, the atmosphere is not the same. And sure, the old White Hart Lane is looked back in great memories, but an upgrade was needed in its current age of football, where star signings are commanding £100 million in fees, and in 10 years, we'll see a player signing for £1 billion. But while the new stadium might take time to get used to, it's a good decision in the long term, and at least the club are still based in Tottenham in the same area as the old ground, so the legacy of White Hart Lane remains forever intact, and here's to more great memories in the future. To say that Tottenham's form began to slip in August 2019 would be a lie. Although Spurs had reached the Champions League final with people looking back with happiness, elsewhere it was pretty so-and-so. You see, the form in decline was beginning to show in December 2018 when after a 5-0 smashing over Bournemouth we suffered defeats to Wolves, West Ham, Crystal Palace in the FA Cup knocking us out early and losing to Chelsea twice in the Carabao Cup semi-final and the Premier League where Kieran Trippier scored an embarrassing own goal. Oof. The team was struggling with injuries and it seemed like our quest for 4th place was in danger, but luckily it was secured in a 2-2 draw to Everton on the final day, while other teams competing for the spot were subject to laughable results. Seriously? Cardiff 2, Man United 0? For God's sake, Neil Warnock's side got relegated! And looking back, the most important Premier League result was a 1-1 draw in the last North London derby at Wembley. Had Hugo Lloris not saved Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang's penalty, then Arsenal would have secured the spot ahead of Spurs, and the banter on St Totteringham's Day would have been unbearable. Whew. But this season, Tottenham have not been as lucky with their results, and have been at the receiving end of some humiliating defeats. A kind not seen consistently since the 2013-14 season, and will even make Tim Sherwood say, "Christ above, are you guys drunk?" "I'm not drunk!" A penalty shootout loss to Colchester United, a 7-2 home defeat to Bayern Munich orchestrated by ex-gunner Serge Gnabry, a 3-0 smashing from Brighton, losses to mid-table sides, and Norwich City in the FA Cup. These are games that we are capable of winning, some more than others, but it doesn't help legitimise us as serious cup contenders for any competition, and those memes about empty trophy cabinets may continue to be used by our rivals. But that Audi Cup counts, does it? Does it? And when the team's chemistry is not mixing well, it can lead to a more hostile crowd than a pleasant one as normal. Not to mention a nightmare scenario in which Eric Dyer confronted an abusive fan in the stands. But that's not to say there have been great performances. Tottenham 2, Manchester City 0, a contender for goal of the season, a last minute limb from Sonny against Aston Villa, and a 4-2 home victory over Olympiacos in the Champions League. The same team that will knock Arsenal out of the Europa League 3 months later? Brilliant! Unfortunately, the team's form have mostly been a disappointing letdown, and ultimately it depends on the talismanship of both the players and manager, and this season there have been some pretty drastic changes from both departments of play. After signing Lucas Moura from Unai Emery's PSG in February 2018, the club did not sign a single new player for 18 months, before finally breaking the bank in July 2019 on Jack Clarke from Leeds United and Lyon's Tanguy Ndombele, who impressed the season before with a series of strong performances. Before the transfer window closed in the summer, the team added Giovanni Lo Celso and the bright Ryan Sessegnon from Fulham, and if that wasn't good enough, a deal with Paulo Dybala from Juventus was confirmed before being cancelled due to image rights from a third-party company? Are you serious? And as a result of these new faces, a few fan favourites have left the club, including Moussa Dembele, a valuable asset who left the January before, World Cup hero Kieran Trippier to Atletico Madrid, spaghetti aficionado Victor Wanyama, and most importantly Christian Eriksen, who was one of the few saviours from when Spurs sold Gareth Bale in 2013 and haphazardly bought 7 players to fill the void. Sorry Soldado. Eriksen had expressed a desire for a new challenge throughout 2019 and finally got his way in January 2020 with a move to Inter Milan. Meanwhile, during the winter transfer window, Spurs invested in 2 more players with a loan deal for Gedson Fernandes and PSV Eindhoven's Stevie Bergwijn, who became an instant hero when scoring on his debut against Man City. But on top of the new players joining, the club's academy has also been doing well. Before 1-0 Premier League loss to Liverpool, most people had no idea who Jaffe Tanganga was before he dazzled on his first team debut, preventing Jurgen Klopp's game from scoring more goals. Is he the next Ledley King? Only time will tell, alongside more opportunities for Oliver Skipp, the 18-year-old Troy Parrott and Malachi Walcott. But on the pitch, the team have mostly not played well, likely due to an ageing side who haven't changed too much in the past 5 years, alleged problems with the manager, and an unsettling ton of injuries. Remember the 3-0 loss to Brighton? Hugo Lloris dislocated his elbow, so Paulo Gazniga had to take over goalkeeping duties for a few months, and at the same time, Harry Kane, Heung-min Son, and Moussa Sissoko were all out due to injuries, and so the club can only play with who else is still healthy, and this can lead to some unwanted results. Can we sign any emergency players like Barcelona in Spain? No, because life's not fair. For a better understanding of the ongoing farce, I spoke to one of my own best friends from uni, who is a part-time comedian, supports Tottenham as well, and funny enough, is also called Sam, just like me. What have been your thoughts on our new signings?
I think Giovanni Lo Celso is the standout out of our new signings, him and Tanguy Ndombele, although I think Steven Bergwijn is probably going to be the best player out of the bunch of them. Interesting. I see the most potential in Ndombele and Bergwijn myself. Now, how about the old players? How have they done this season amidst the ongoing injury crisis? I think Kane's doing brilliant, I think Son was doing brilliant, and but I think our defenders need to be a bit better. They've not really been up to par.
Thanks for joining, Sam.
Thanks for having me on, Sam.
And finally, the biggest change at the North London club has been the departure of Mauricio Pochettino, the manager of Tottenham, for an unforgettable 5 years. He was a much beloved figure from the fans despite initial fears upon his May 2014 appointment. Why an Argentine from Southampton when you could have Louis van Gaal? But the decision paid off well, and while Pochettino's first season wasn't perfect when we lost in the 2015 League Cup final and a 5th place Premier League finish, what he did to the team was nothing but incredible. For a good part of the 2010s, Tottenham became one of Europe's most exciting sides, with a squad full of talent, Heung-min Son and Harry Kane becoming the true replacements for Bale and Modric, and a whole lot of top goals in between a change of scenery at home. In a space of 5 years, Tottenham recorded victories over European heavyweights Real Madrid, Borussia Dortmund, who I saw lose 3-0, and the culmination of Poch's magic was in Amsterdam on May 8th, 2019, when Spurs beat Ajax 3-2 on away goals to proceed to the Champions League final, thanks to a Lucas Moura masterpiece involving the winner at the 95th minute. But after defeat to Liverpool in the Champions League final, the team were a bit hungover, and a week after drawing 1-1 to Sheffield United at home, the cheery chap was given his P45 on November 19th, 2019. It was the end of an era which went horribly south in the new season, and he is recognised as the best Tottenham manager since Bill Nicholson in the 1960s. But if you're going to replace him, you might as well hand over the keys to a serial trophy winner. Yes, because a day later it was revealed that Jose Mourinho was the new man in charge, which honestly was surreal. A man who has won the Premier League 3 times with Chelsea, a treble with Inter Milan in 2010 and the Champions League twice. What could go wrong? The team immediately saw an improvement in form following his arrival, but there have been the odd slip-ups here and then, and sceptic fans saying, well, the honeymoon phase is over and Jose's past his prime. And it is true that Jose has been underperformed before, like in the 2015-16 season with Chelsea and an underwhelming spell at Man United. And with any new manager, it will take time to get used to their new ideas, and experimental lineups are common to see what sticks and what doesn't. After all, Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't successful with Man United straight away in the late 1980s, and in the 89-90 season, he was essentially 1 game away from being sacked had he not beaten Nottingham Forest in the FA Cup. And the rest, they say, is history. Seeing Jose Mourinho at Tottenham is still very strange, but he's got the potential to change our fortunes for better. He still makes the headlines for his unusual antics, including the temerity to resume training in a park during a nationwide lockdown. I spoke to my big brother Christian to see what he thinks about Jose and whether the dismissal of Poch was really a good idea.
Well, Sam, I can't say I was a big fan of Mourinho before. I thought with all of his baggage from Chelsea and Man United, and I've tried to give him the benefit of the doubt. He's dealing with a squad that was performing badly under Pochettino. He's had injuries to key players, but ultimately he's just been playing negative football with still a great set of players. You look at Chris Wilder at Sheffield United and Nuno Santos at Wolves, and they're performing much better with smaller budgets, much more attractive football. He also got a tendency to throw players under the bus to kind of deflect from his own failings, such as Ndombele, and those are things that Pochettino never did, and that's why I don't think he's had a great start to his Spurs career, Mourinho.
In conclusion, Tottenham Hotspur are going through a rough patch right now, and the 2019-20 season has been a time of transition. It won't go down as a memorable period like the 2016-17 era for instance, and as of writing this video, the entire football season has been put on hold due to the worldwide coronavirus pandemic, with several players and managers contacting the dreaded COVID-19 infection. Right now, the main priority is not the beautiful game, but to stay safe indoors and help other people out. To quote the late Caroline Flack, in a world where you can be anything, be kind. And trust me, that's not a hard thing to do in life. It's been 2 months since the last Spurs match, a dire 3-0 loss to RB Leipzig which knocked us out of the Champions League in a team plagued with injuries. And honestly, the suspension of football has been a blessing in disguise for the club, so that our key players can recover from injuries without missing out on important matches, including a North London derby that is scheduled to have taken place on April 25th, 2020. During a lockdown, I've been reflecting back on the past couple months of the team, and there are many reasons right through and centre for another trophyless season. Could it be the chairman Daniel Levy for being too uptight, or the players not giving their all on the pitch? Time will tell as to who was the best investment and how we will perform within the next year, 2 or 5 years ahead in 2025. And before we finish this video, I asked my guest fans on what they feel needs improving best at the club.
I think we need to sort out our first team defence, maybe look in the free agent market, as we're going to have a limited transfer budget, but I think that's the main thing that needs to be addressed.
In terms of on the fields, in terms of player changes, I can't see there being any big transfers anytime soon, what with the current financial situation. So I think there's going to have to be improvement from the players we've got now. So we've started to see that with the likes of Lo Celso, who's performed very well towards this season. But we're relying on Mourinho and the coaching staff to get the best out of some of the young players like Sessegnon and Troy Parrott, and I could see Pochettino can be trusted with those sort of players to bring them through, but Mourinho's track record over the last couple of years of bringing young players through, again, doesn't leave me with that much optimism.
So there you go, a video about the current state of the football team I dearly love. I had fun making this video as it's been a good distraction from the current health crisis, and hopefully you've enjoyed today's video. Unless you're an Arsenal fan. Anyways, if you liked today's video, don't forget to give it a like, comment and subscribe to my channel for more great content. I'm now finished with university and I'm working on more music as we speak, so yeah, the future's looking great. And until next time, I'll see you all later. Cheerio! However, with every situation, there are plenty of reasons as to why it happened in the first place, and I'll divide these factors down into 4 categories. That's 3 more.